Good morning, everyone. We're about 2 minutes before 10 a.m., so we're going to just let everybody kind of filter in and get started in the next couple minutes. But thank you all for joining us. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Just wanted to say good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar on how to manage inspections and habitability. My name is Christy Hayek. I am the Director of Public Affairs at SCANPH. We're so glad you can join us for this session, which is part of our ongoing asset and property management series for this year. We do have two more on Wednesday, the 29th, and Monday, the November 3rd, excuse me. And I hope you can join us for those two as well. Today, our speaker is Angel Rogers from National Court. Hi, Angel. She is a
Hi.
she is a seasoned professional with extensive experience and property management and compliance. Angel worked hands-off with affordable housing communities for many, many years and has helped organizations strengthen their inspection process and ensure that residents live in safe and high-quality homes. We are so happy to have you here today and to have you share your insights. She will walk us through the practical strategies today for managing inspections, maintaining habitability standards, and navigating common challenges that property managers face in the field. We'll also have some time at the end for Q&A, as well as during. So if you want Angel to answer any questions, feel free to drop it in that Q&A button at the bottom, and we will keep them go as they roll through this series. And if you have any questions, let us know in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to hand it over to Angel to start the session. Thank you, Angel.
Hey, great. Well, you're so welcome. Thank you for having me. I am really excited to be back with SCAMP. I think this is such an incredible series that your association offers to your members, and I'm always very happy to be a part of that. So thank you again for the invite. This is a great way to put a bow on my week. I have literally been training every day this week, and so to be able to end the week with talking about something as fun as conducting property inspections actually does excite me because that's who I am anyway. So this is such an important topic for all property managers and asset managers to understand the incredible responsibility we have at maintaining these assets that we're managing. And the number one way to assure that the asset is being managed appropriately is to conduct regular, ongoing, thorough inspections. This is a living, breathing asset. It can change overnight. It has a cycle. It's a living, breathing thing. So I'm really happy to guide you through some of the things that I've learned over my, I'm not going to tell you how many years, but it's significant years of being in property management. I often tease my audiences that I don't know how to do anything else but property management. So it's probably a good thing I like it so much. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to just kind of review what our learning objectives are for today. We're going to review again the importance of property inspections, kind of go over some of that, and really want to dig into habitability. We have a lot of things to talk about when it comes to habitability. We're going to give you some tips for walking the property. and tips for walking vacant units as well. I have a lot of tips today, lots of that. We're going to talk a little bit about capital improvements. And let me go back here. And then again, if you have any questions or if you have a comment or questions, if you need a form, make sure you put it in the box and we'll make sure we get that to you. All right. So we really do want to begin by talking about how these property inspections are done and what they're, and for several reasons. So other than gathering information for specific purposes like budgeting, marketing, insurance coverage, of course, energy conservation, all of these things that we walk our properties for and inspect them for, the primary purpose is to determine the need for maintenance. Maintenance is by far the single most important aspect of maintaining that asset, obviously. So we need to make sure that we're on top of anything that might be on our properties that could be causing a habitability issue or a trip and fall or anything along those lines. So that's why the most important thing we do is we walk these for maintenance. So we're just going to jump in and talk about the habitability because this is one of the most primary topics that comes up when we are having, sometimes when we're having challenges with our residents. So let's just jump in here and say that habitability, we are required. It's not a nice to do. It's not a we should do. It is an absolute must that we keep our properties in a habitable condition. It is required. Anytime that we're signing a lease, there is an implied warranty of habitability here. I want you to think about this, that once the unit becomes uninhabitable, then the liability increases significantly. So that's why it is so incredibly important that we stay in front of these kinds of issues. Anything that could be considered a habitability challenge needs to be treated as an emergency, not even urgent at this point. When it gets to this point, it becomes an emergency. If anybody has been to eviction court, then you probably, I'm sorry if you've had to, but we've all had to. It's part of the dance in property management. One of the number one reasons that's claimed in court is that people don't pay their rent because we failed to keep the property in habitable condition. So, like I was saying before, there's an implied warranty of habitability. It's an unstated guarantee, but in the state of California, when you sign that lease agreement and your residents sign that lease agreement, you are guaranteeing that this is going to be a home where basic living and safety standards are met, and you'll continue to meet them. I often get the questions, well, what if the resident breaks the dishwasher? Do I have to fix it? Yes, because you supplied it, so you need to repair it. Even if they broke it, and even if you're going to be charging them back, all of these things, it's an implied warranty. Again, this requires us to keep the premises in a condition that is, like it says here, fit for occupation for human beings. And so we must substantially comply with all housing and building codes. Again, and like it says here, even if it's not stated in the lease, in the state of California, by signing that agreement, we are agreeing to that warranty, that implied warranty. And like I said, I know I have been to eviction court more times than I would ever want to. I'm sure all of you feel the same way. That is not a very fun place to be. However, even if the property is in good condition, this is a statement that our residents will make in order to allow the eviction to last longer. So when you think about it from that standpoint, if they answer, and many times they are actually I don't want to say schooled, but they are prompted by groups sometimes to say that there's a problem with habitability. And that's an automatic red flag, and that means you're going to be going to court. So that's why it's so important that we keep all of our maintenance records. Any maintenance that you've done on that apartment, the exterior, we're going to go through how to inspect that, I promise you, but I want to emphasize again the importance of documentation. Because your maintenance records can also be you should be bringing them to court with you to prove that you have kept the property in habitable condition, even, despite what the resident is saying. Again, not to be too uh, uh, negative about that or sinister about it, but it really is what people will say in order to prolong the eviction process is to talk about habitability. So what does that mean? What are our responsibilities as an owner? Well, for starters, you have to have effective waterproofing and weather protection. What this means is that your roofs and your windows and your doors need to be operable and have weather stripping. There also needs to be plumbing facilities in good working order. And that's why any time, like I said, any of these that happen, any kind of disruption of this service on your property needs to be considered an emergency so that you can get that taken care of as soon as you can. But again, plumbing facilities, heating and gas facilities in good working order. Let me explain very explicitly that heat is not an option. It is one of the mainstays of habitability. You must provide heat. Now, some cities and some counties and some areas have additional requirements where you must supply air conditioning. So if you have properties in Palm Desert, Palm Springs, Blythe, those kinds of areas, you very most likely have a local ordinance that requires that you have air conditioning. And from what I understand, the city of Los Angeles has just passed another ordinance where we will have to provide air conditioning. I'm not going to jump into that yet because I don't have enough information about it yet, but just keep in mind that this is something that has been discussed at length. So you want to make sure that you're on top of that. But again, you have to provide heat. That's a must. Electrical systems have to be in good working order as well, and clean and sanitary buildings and grounds. So, we keep our properties maintained very well for many reasons. First, from a marketing standpoint, from a keeping our current residents happy standpoint. But let's take another step and look at this as this is part of habitability. So this is a good way to explain to your staff that it's not just because we want the apartments to or the buildings to always look nice and neat. It's because it's a standard of habitability as well. There has to be adequate trash receptacles that need to be provided for the residents. All the floors, any stairways, any railings have to be in good condition. It's probably something we don't think about very often, but the railings on your stairwells, you want to go take a good look at those. You might want to go check them out. I remember many years ago when I was an on-site manager, I actually had a little boy get a very big splinter in his hand. And it was, I mean, it looked like a log. Y'all, it was big. It was a very, very big splinter. And so the good news is that his mother had no problem with us. He wasn't supposed to be outside playing anyway, so he got in trouble. We were not the bad guys in this scenario for once. But it was something that really brought to light that it's not just the stair treads, it's not just the ironwork that holds them together. We need to be looking at those railings as well. Also, there has to be a working toilet, a working sink, a tub or shower in a ventilated private room. So that's the restroom, the bathrooms need to have that. They also have to have a lock. That's why it says private. Bathroom doors need to have a lock on them as part of habitability. The kitchen has to be there with a working sink. Natural lighting in every room. That means window. It's funny I say that. I feel like I'm not in a room with natural lighting today, so it's kind of funny to say that. But natural lighting in every room, which means windows. Safe fire or emergency exits. This is something I think a lot of PMs forget that we need to provide to our residents is what to do in case of an emergency. And you want to make sure that when you're doing your move-in walkthroughs, when you're doing your, newsletters and things like that, that you're reminding people of what those emergency exits, where they are. Obviously, if you've got interior hallways, you've got the exit signs lit up, but believe me when I say that those exit signs need to be lit up 24/7. If you have those, they have to be. That's also part of code. Smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. I know a lot of PMs and a lot of management companies are using the combos where you can get smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors together. I say great. However, one thing I would caution you to do is to make sure that you install that device according to the manufacturer's instructions. And the reason I say this is because carbon monoxide and smoke they compete for floor space, if you will. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to have them in one unit. So as far as liability is concerned, make sure that you read the manufacturer's recommendations on where to place that device in the home. Also part of the responsibilities is having locking mail receptacles for each residential unit as well. All right, so the residents also have a responsibility to habitability as well. And so we'll go over theirs. They are required to take reasonable care of their apartments. That's part of their implied warranty with us is that they're going to take care of their apartments. I know that every rental agreement has a clause in there about maintaining their apartment and what we expect them to do to maintain it. They're also responsible to repair any damage from that and that results from their neglect or abuse. That doesn't mean they have to make the repair because honestly, we probably don't want our residents trying to do that. We have experts to do that for them, but there might be a cost associated with that. And I'll give you an example of something that I ran into quite often when I was on site, and that was broken windows. Okay, so broken windows, the first thing, of course, you look for is where's the glass? Is the glass inside the apartment or outside the apartment? If it's inside the apartment, chances are they didn't break it. It's a reasonable assumption. If the glass is outside of the apartment, then it's a reasonable assumption to assume that there was something happening in the home that caused that broken window. So even if they broke it, um, they're going to pay for it, but we can't wait to fix it until they pay for it because this is part of that implied warranty of habitability. Remember, the first one is about working windows and doors. So even if they broke it and they haven't paid for it yet, you still have to make that repair. I know that I have a lot of property managers who say, I shouldn't have to do that because it's their fault. It doesn't matter at that point whose fault it is because you are the landlord, and so you're responsible for that repair, even if they haven't paid for it yet. They also need, I don't need my glasses right now. How exciting. We want to make sure that they keep the premises as clean and sanitary as the condition of the premises permits. Use and operate all of their gas, electrical, their plumbing fixtures properly. So let's take a step back on that one. What does that even mean, right? Are we taking the time when they're moving in? Are we taking the time to show them how to properly use all of their appliances? You know, one of my favorite questions to ask my students is, how many of you knew that there was a reset button on the garbage disposal before you were a property manager? You probably didn't know that. So why would the general public know that? So during that move-in time is a great time to show them how to use the dishwasher, how, you know, the expectations of the HVAC, the thermostat, all of these different things, show them, actually physically show them where the water shutoff valve is in each bathroom. Many times residents, they might have an overflowing toilet and they have zero idea how to make that stop. And so if during that move-in process, we actually show that to them, we could be really saving ourselves and them from even more damage. So again, making sure that they understand what can go down a toilet, what cannot go down a toilet. All of those things are really important. It is their responsibility to use it appropriately, but it's our responsibility to show them how. Also disposing of trash and garbage in a clean and sanitary manner. Yeah, so I've been on site a long time, so I understand how difficult this one can be sometimes, but that is their responsibility to not destroy, damage, or deface the premises or allow anyone else to do so. So this is also, you know, going into that portion of the lease where they are responsible for their guests' activities as well. They can't remove any part of the structure or the dwelling unit or the facilities, anything, or allow anyone else to do so. Or they have to use the premises also as a place to live and use the rooms for their intended purposes. I will never forget the time that doing an inspection, and I don't know why this resident felt that we would never find out, but she actually had installed shampoo bowls in her dining area that connected to the plumbing in the kitchen area because she was running a salon out of her apartment. So yeah, that's not allowable. Um, like it says here, the bedroom must be used for a bedroom and not as a kitchen. And also, it's their responsibility to notify us if the deadbolt locks and window locks or any kind of devices that if they don't operate properly, then it is the resident's responsibility to let us know that. All right, so I just wanted to just kind of give you some ideas of the kind of judgments that happen around habitability claims. This one in Los Angeles County, there was a 1.6 million um, award due to a bed bug infestation. And then another one was 2.18 million in a settlement. I don't have that kind of money. My company doesn't have that kind of money laying around to pay out settlements. So this is why these kinds of webinars and training opportunities are so important to remind everybody that everything we do we're liable for everything, right? And we have to make sure that we are staying within the guidelines of habitability. All right, so the best way to stay ahead of problems obviously is to walk the entire property every day, preferably in the morning before you open the office. A lot can happen on your properties overnight. You know that. A lot can happen. So you want to have fresh eyes taking a look at the entire grounds, the entire property. We say here that the inspection will be more efficient if you work from top to bottom, obviously, and then have alternate walks planned so you don't miss anything. So as a community manager, I was at my last property. It's been a few minutes since I was there, but I was there for almost 7 years. So after 7 years, you stop seeing things because you've been there so long. There's an old saying that you stop seeing the forest because there's so many trees in it. And so that would happen. You get complacent a little bit because you've been there so long. You see the same thing over and over again. So it's good to like shake it up a little bit. And maybe if you always start on the east side of the property to do your walks, then shake it up and go on the west side to start it so that you can see things from a different light. Another thing that I did know, I was at a very large property, so this may or may not uh, pertain to your communities, but on this large property, I had a big staff. And so what I did is I took the property and sliced it up like a pie and gave each leasing a piece of the pie. An assistant manager got a piece of the pie. Everybody had a piece of the pie. And that was their section of the property to walk and make sure that it looked good and that there weren't any terrible things that could have happened overnight. And that could be graffiti, it could be trash on the ground, it could be the grocery carts, all of those kinds of things. So everybody had a slice of the pie, but maintenance did too. Maintenance had a slice of those pies also. And then like every quarter, they would get a different slice of pie so that everybody was seeing it in a different light so that we were getting more than one perspective of what that looked like. So again, if you're able to do that, you know what, even if you have a sister community. Maybe there's a community that's not far from you. If you're a smaller one and you're just a one-person office, maybe have one of your manager friends come over and walk each other's properties for each other. That can be a great way to build trust. But that's a whole different seminar. But it's also a great way for you to see the property in a light that you might not normally see it. And again, that's the name of the game is to make sure that we're maintaining that property. So if you get input from somebody else, that can be really constructive for you. All right. So again, walking the property regularly, what does that look like? So the property walks ensure that the community is inviting. Regardless if you are on affordable, if you're on permanent supportive housing, whatever your funding source is, if you're on market, it doesn't matter. You're still marketing to the people who live in that community. you have to continue to entice them to stay, right? So we do that by ensuring that the community looks good. If you're showing apartments, if you have a tour path, you need to make sure that that's free of litter and that it's well maintained. Like I said, things can happen overnight. There, I'm not even going to go into some of the things I've seen on my tour path over the years, but you probably have all seen them too. So you just want to make sure that it's free of litter and it's well maintained. And again, this helps us find issues before they become costly. This is all about preventing even more money going out. Inspections should be done thorough with um, through the eyes, I'm sorry, through the eyes of the future resident as well. I think that's really important that we're looking at this through their eyes, not just ours. And property managers and maintenance staffs, we should be doing these inspections daily. And I'm going to give you some pretty detailed, I actually have a checklist in here too that I can send over to SCANPH and they can send it out to you if you need one. So your daily inspections are basically you're looking to make sure that the property looks good. You probably have in your tool box and part of your responsibilities is to also create a monthly inspection, which would give you a little bit more detail. You're going into a little bit more depth on these. This is what gives you the opportunity to schedule corrective, routine, and preventive maintenance. All right, annual inspections help estimate costs for budgets and make decisions about capital improvements. I know that everybody absolutely loves to do their unit inspections, don't you? Your annual unit inspections are so much fun. Said no one ever, but it is absolutely critical to our being able to budget and to forecast what the building's going to need. All inspections should be documented, and they are the key to making sure that the community, like I said, looks its best. So when we talk, there's two different inspections here. You can do your annual exterior and then annual unit inspections. Annual unit inspections, I can tell you that with our company, we actually have an hour-long PowerPoint that we do with this to make it kind of get everybody ready to do their annual inspections and pump everybody up. But it also reminds them of all of our procedures and what's important, how we load up the pictures into our software and all of those kinds of things. Again, I'm absolutely happy to share how we do our training for our unit inspections. I'm happy to share that with you. If you'd like, you can ask Christy for it. We'll make sure that you get that. Again, and looking at the inspections, looking at them at different times really does allow you, like I said at the beginning, every property does have a life cycle. And so it's important that you're out there in the elements, if you will, so that you can observe those life cycles throughout the year. Inspecting a property in January is a completely different inspection than in September. So we need to make sure that we are looking at these properties at all times. Develop a checklist. Like I said, I have one for you. I'll show you in a little bit. And here's some tips for walking the property. So for starters, bring your appropriate keys during the inspection. You do not want to have to keep running back to the office to get keys to things because you're going to be looking at an awful lot of places that have keys. So you want to make sure that you have your keys. It might sound like a no-brainer, but trust me, I've been out on a site and didn't have keys to a shop or a pool equipment room. And all that does is just take time. It takes time out of your day to backtrack on that. Be prepared to take notes on the condition of the property. This is where technology is absolutely our friend. There are so many programs and software that can help you with this. You can do dictation into an app on your phone. I think that we're using Snap Inspect or something along those lines. You can just Google it and you can find so many different opportunities and ways that you can actually take the notes so you don't have to handwrite them. In my day, we had to have a clipboard and handwrite them. Now, you just need a phone or an iPad, and it makes it so much easier. You can upload photos right to your inspections. It's really great. Take advantage of that technology. What you're looking for is making sure that the property is free of litter, discarded furniture, which is it's a huge red flag. when there's discarded furniture anywhere. You all know that if you've had any inspections by any agency, that's one of the first things that they're looking for is to make sure that there isn't discarded furniture and abandoned vehicles. Both of those things are big red flags to inspectors from agencies. You want to make sure that you're looking at your workshops and your storage areas. This is, from a safety standpoint, you want to make sure that your maintenance people are storing all the chemicals correctly and that there aren't any like rags with turpentine on them laying around. People sometimes get rushed. I'm not going to say sloppy, but they sometimes get rushed and they might forget to lock up their chemicals in the OSHA cabinet. So these are all things that we need to be looking for when we're out there. Looking at your pool equipment, making sure that there's no debris around it. There is nothing more uh, disastrous for pool equipment than the day after the Santa Ana winds. All of those leaves for some reason, they love to congregate around our pool equipment, and that can cause a buildup of organic material that can actually eat away at some of our pipes. So you really want to make sure that you are looking at your pool equipment and those mechanical elements as well. And like I said before, have another employee inspect it as well so that you can see that from a different perspective. That makes a big difference. Okay. All right. So let's look at exterior lighting. I love this picture. I just thought this was fun. Exterior lighting, by the way, is always an emergency. We want to make certain that we are well lit. You make sure that you have adequate lighting. It should be inspected at night and checked daily. I teach a curriculum for the state of California, and there's actually a test question that says, when is the best time to inspect your lighting? It just cracks me up every time because hopefully it's clear that we should be inspecting the lighting in the evening when we actually have the lights on. I just want to, make sure that everybody, is clear that the lighting, because so many things can happen right under the cloak of darkness. And they would, if something happens, and I don't mean to make light of it, but if something happens to a resident and it's determined that there was not enough exterior lighting or lights were out and you'd been informed of it, that's a huge liability. So lights out are extremely important to get those done. They are absolutely considered an emergency. We should have adequate lighting at all of our entrances, our walkways, obviously our parking areas, and the surrounding grounds. And there is a level that is appropriate. I remember many years ago, we got new lighting at my community, and I was so excited that it was a great upgrade. And the day we put up the lights was so exciting. And I had my maintenance guy, he lived on site, so he came back at night to look at them. And the next morning, this is hilarious. The next morning, we had something like 12 messages. We had just done one little area to start the installation. I had 12 messages from the residents saying, "Oh my gosh, are you trying to divert planes from the airport? It's so bright here." So I talked to my maintenance man. He goes, "They're too bright, and you can actually have them be too bright because our residents couldn't sleep because even their blinds weren't enough to keep out that light." So when I say appropriate, believe me, you have to make sure that it's that sweet spot, that it's not too dim and not too bright as well. Those were some funny messages. I look back on that fondly. It was hilarious. Also, lighting can help reduce crime on the property. That's proven. And you can also consider using motion activated lighting to conserve energy and also to reduce costs. All right, now let's look at landscaping. So landscaping, there can be a lot of challenges with landscaping. Here's some things you want to look at. Again, proper landscaping may decrease crime. There's actually a program called CPTED, which is Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design, CPTED, CPTED. And that program actually is an outline of the types of shrubs, trees, bushes, and things like that that you should and should not have on your property. A rule of thumb is if you have trees on your property, the limbs should be no lower than shoulder height. And the shrubs should be no higher than the height of your knee. That's directly from SEPTED. Now, of course, that's going to be different depending on how tall you are. So they do the average size of a person kind of a thing on that. But you can see that having bushes that are way up on the window, people could be criminals could be hiding in those bushes. So you want to make sure that, and they can climb the trees if there's lower limbs. Deferred landscaping also can promote criminal activity because if it's deferred landscaping, it looks like it's not being taken care of, which means there's a lack of management oversight. And that would be a way to call out that this is a property that probably doesn't have security or courtesy patrol or anybody really minding the store. Like I said, prune your trees and shrubs, keep them trimmed, and remove tree roots. They're very dangerous. Tree roots are crazy, incredible things, aren't they? They can uproot a sidewalk faster than anything else, and that can cause a trip hazard. And so you want to make sure that roots are removed. If you don't want to kill the tree, you can call an arborist. There are ways to remove the roots without killing the tree. It's not inexpensive, but it can be done. Like remove trees that are touching the property roof or are low hanging. Trees and branches and limbs that are touching the roof. When those Santa Anas come in, they can wipe out all of your tiles very easily. So that's why we say you want to make sure that there's nothing touching the property roof. Ensure that there's no overwatered areas or standing water on the property. Standing water attracts pests and it attracts mosquitoes. And mosquitoes carry all kinds of fun things like West Nile virus and things like that. And that's all you would need is to have one of your residents accuse you of getting West Nile virus because you didn't have because the water is standing water. So that's something you want to look at too. Yeah, not a good idea to have as ground cover. You don't want to have any kind of rocks or gravel. Those can become weapons. So you want to make sure you don't have that on your property. There's all kinds of different materials you can use now that are very cost effective because they last longer. The shredded bark that's made out of old tires. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but that is something that's very sustainable. It doesn't fade as fast as wood bark. So that could be something you could replace with. But yeah, we should not give them ammunition. We should not be putting rocks on the property. This is one of my favorite slides ever. So this tree is called the Chinese silk floss tree. And I'm going to highly recommend that if any of you have these on your properties, that you remove them this afternoon if you can. These trees are absolutely stunning when they are blooming, and they're really interesting when they've finished their bloom and they create that silk that you see in that picture. They're gorgeous, but look at this close-up of this. This tree has thorns, and those thorns are very, very sharp. And I can tell you from experience, yes, you know, this is one of those don't ask me how I know. But I'll tell you, we did have some of these on our properties many years ago, and we did have some incidents where people were getting hurt by these trees. In addition, see those beautiful pink flowers? Aren't they gorgeous? Well, when they hit a sidewalk, they become instant slime. So they create a hazard on these, even though they're beautiful when they hit the ground, they're very, very slippery and they cause a lot of slip and falls. So these trees need to be removed. I think the best place for them are on the medians and the freeways is a beautiful place to observe them, but certainly not on our properties. I think that here in California, that they must have been on sale in the 80s because almost every property that was built in the 80s has these trees on them. So definitely want to make sure that these are removed. These are the kinds of things we're looking for when we're talking liability, right? We need to make sure that we're seeing these kinds of things. All right. Now let's look at the grounds and curb appeal. This is don't we wish all our properties looked like this every single day? Wouldn't that be great if they looked like that 24/7? Hopefully they do. Some tips for the curb appeal. We already talked about landscaping. Signage is incredibly important if you do have signage to make sure that it's in good condition. I love the balloons and the signage in this particular photo because they're still nice and bright and vibrant. When Southern California, the sun is very harsh and it can fade our flags very quickly, which lends to not having great curb appeal. You want to make sure that your flags are still vibrant. Oh, there we go, signs, flag signs, and your exterior paint too. These are other things that you're looking for on the exteriors. Lighting and cleanliness. The cleanliness is the one thing that we can do on a daily basis. We might not be able to paint as often as we'd like, but we can keep it clean, and that is part of habitability. So making sure that the property is clean as well. All right, here's a nice property. Let's look at some more tips on this. Stairs and hallways should be clean, well maintained, and well lit. Can't emphasize that enough. Checking for loose threads on carpeting. There's if you have those interior hallways and you have that industrial carpet, sometimes just one little snag on that can create an entire line of fibers getting loose. All it's going to take is one person to get their heel caught on that, and they're going to take a fall, and that's going to be, a challenge for us. That's going to be an incident report. So you want to check to make sure that there's no loose threads in the carpeting. Looking for cracks in the concrete, and it might sound kind of silly, but it is really important to look at the concrete pretty closely. Water is very mysterious and it's also very demanding. And what I mean by that, it goes wherever it wants to. Even dams can't hold water sometimes. So if you have cracks in the concrete, it's very easy for water, moisture to get into those cracks and compromise the ground that's underneath that concrete. So you want to make sure that if you see the cracks, there are ways to seal them. If you're unable to um, uh, repair or replace a sidewalk with cracks in it, I believe that there's a silicone material that you can do that will actually seal it and prevent it, at least as a stop measure, so that it doesn't get any worse, and so that moisture doesn't get up underneath and compromise the compaction underneath there. Keep those handrails splinter free. I already told you my story about that one. Make sure that they're stable as well. They can very easily pull out of those walls, so you want to make sure that they're stable. And the concrete stairs, make sure that they're sturdy as well. Making sure you're checking the threads, that they're not loose, and the different steps. If you have the open stairways, you want to make sure that the welding is still really good. You have a good tight weld on those stair treads. And then implement a policy to keep patios and balconies free of litter and clutter and indoor furniture. Remember that on the patios and balconies, there should only be outside furniture. They should not be, and we love when residents want to recycle, yay, just not on our patios and balconies, because that can, first of all, it's unsightly, but it also can attract pests and all kinds of things can happen. So we want to make sure that we're encouraging it, but we also want to make sure that our patios and balconies are in good condition. You might even want to try having a beautification contest. That can be kind of a fun way to get people to participate in keeping their patios clean. Like have a contest for it, or first, second, and third place for the most beautiful patio, or something along those lines. Not only does it help to make the property be, operationally to look better, but it also brings a sense of community as well. Especially around the holidays, people like to do the decorating contests. So that might be a way to get your residents engaged in the process as well. And it's fun. All right, different things with exterior maintenance. Boy, those gutters, those are super fun too. That's something we need to look at too. Make sure your gutters are cleaned out. Inspecting asphalt for cracks and potholes, reducing trip hazards. Asphalt takes a beating in California. Again, we have a really strong sun here. And so asphalt can get compromised pretty quickly. It is a petroleum product, so it's going to expand and contract as it heats up. You've seen the cracking of it, and then when it gets cold, it might come back in. But we still need to make sure that we are walking our asphalt. And you're also looking for in parking areas if there's a buildup of oil or grease from somebody's car. Um, I love that it's kind of fun. They call the cracks on the asphalt is called alligatoring. I didn't know alligator could be a verb, but there we go, alligatoring. And because if you think about it, when you think about the concrete, I'm sorry, the asphalt, it looks when it's cracked, it looks like the back of an alligator. So you want to make sure that you're taking, though you can get some relatively inexpensive fixes on that. And you want to do that as much as you can because you want to make sure that people aren't tripping on that. Making sure your cars are registered and in good condition, removing any water, loose gravel, or litter on the sidewalks. Looking for sidewalks that might be have separated and are uneven, and ensure that fencing is up to your city ordinances and complies with state and local codes. You cannot have you cannot have barbed wire in the state of California, nor should you have on any of your wrought iron fences. Be very careful not to have any spires or spikes at the top. Um, I was driving by a community. I live out in the Inland Empire, and I was driving from where I live on a street over to Redlands, and there's a community that has those spires. And every time I drive by, I just kind of I get worried about it. And sure enough, last weekend I saw about a 10, maybe 11-year-old child climbing up on that thing, and it made my stomach hurt just thinking about what could happen. Um, I hate to use this word, but people can get impaled on those. So we need to really be careful with the materials that we're using. I have to tell you, my poor husband, I wanted to stop the car and make sure the child was okay. And he's like, I see in my rearview mirror, he got over it. It's good. He got over the fence, but it was just it's made my heart stop. Again, your common areas, look, there's some of that carpet we're talking about. You want to make sure that there's no threads loose on that. Keep your amenities secure, well-maintained, and inviting. Make sure that everything, all areas have signage that's properly worded. You want to make sure that uh, you want to make sure that you're fair housing friendly with all the wording and verbiage on your signage. Make sure you look at your laundry room several times a day. There's you can put 6 trash cans in there, and somebody's still going to put if they bother to take the lint out, they're going to put it on the floor. So you want to make sure that you're looking at that. Make sure again exit signs are in good condition, no trip and fall hazards, and verify those electrical cords are properly grounded. Laundry rooms are a grave source of fires. So we want to make sure that everything in our laundry rooms are in good condition. The lint is cleaned out. The tops of the electrical cords are dusted because there's a lot of dust in laundry rooms, and that can build up and can cause a fire. So you want to make sure you're making that part of your routine cleaning should be that there's a feather duster on top of all of the electrical cords as well. If you have playground areas, you want to make sure that they're in good condition. Sadly, in the evening, it's not the children that are in there, it's the teenagers. So all kinds of things can happen in that playground area. So you want to make sure that there's no debris and there's no graffiti. Looking at mechanical systems, check your pool and spa equipment. How am I doing on time? Oh, cool. Okay. Check your pool and spa equipment. Check your fire extinguishers for full charge and annual inspection date. Remember that in the state of California, you have to replace fire extinguishers every 10 years. They do start to lose their charge or their ability to hold a charge. So you want to make sure that you're looking at those. Your utility rooms, you want to make sure you're looking at those and know when your backflow inspection is and plan accordingly. Your backflow inspection is something that should be on your preventative maintenance schedule. And keep in mind that there are not that many plumbers are certified to actually take care of backflows. So I know that we start scheduling those as soon as like at the beginning of the year. If we have an inspection in April, we're calling in January to get that on their calendars. So just keep, little tip, keep that in mind too. If you have elevators, you need to make sure that those elevator rooms are in good condition and there's no debris in there. We're not storing anything in there, and that all of the electrical is grounded properly, cleaned out, dusted. Same thing as your maintenance or your laundry rooms. So the pool and spa is another area we need to look at. Make sure that your gates are operational with self closures. This is a health and safety issue. This is something that if you have a swimming pool, your annual inspections or your pop inspections where the county just comes by, that's gonna be the first thing they look at is to make sure that your gates are operable. Make sure that your drains have the anti-entrapment. I don't think you can even build a pool now without them, but if you have not heard about this before, I don't think I have a bullet point on it, but I just taught it earlier this week, so it's reminding me. You want to make sure that you have the appropriate anti-entrapment drain covers on those pools so that there's no danger to your residents. Make sure you have your pool rules. You have to display those, including the hours, including proper attire and anything that might be prohibited. And you want to make sure that if you do not have a lifeguard, that you have the no lifeguard sign posted and visible so that nobody can come back to you and say, I didn't know. You want to make sure that's the first thing they see. You want to make sure that pool furniture is clean and in good repair. I mean, this is Southern California. We have our pool furniture out all year. It's not like we're in the East Coast where we store our furniture. Can you believe that? People actually store their furniture, their pool furniture. We don't do that here. But because we keep it out all year, or sometimes not, you might still store it, but we can enjoy the pool year round. But you want to make sure that the uh, your pool furniture is not cracking, especially if you're using the resin furniture, which is very popular because it's so cost friendly. But you want to make sure that that's not cracking. You don't want to have somebody sit on that and have it fall through. Same if you're using the pool furniture with the straps that go around. You want to make sure that those are not compromised and in good condition. And of course, making sure that your chemical levels in the pool and spa meet the requirements, making sure you have somebody on staff who's able to check your chemical levels as well. All right, apartment interiors. So you want to check the electrical outlets when you are doing a unit inspection. Remember, the best time to inspect an apartment for all of this is when it's vacant. That's truly when you're going to get a better picture of it. So let's just pretend you have a vacant right now. We'll go back to this one. Let me go back. Okay, cool. We have a vacant apartment. What are we looking for in here? We're going to look at the electrical outlets, the windows, the doors, making sure everything is intact, the HVAC system, checking the smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. If there's an individual hot water heater, making, double sure that the strap is in good place, in good condition, that the mechanism itself has not rusted out at the bottom. If you have gas coming into the apartment, you want to make sure the gas lines are in good condition, the plumbing. Check for moisture and for musty odors and discoloration. Yeah, that's the word, discoloration. We never use the four-letter word that starts with an M, ends with a D, and has OL in the middle. It's discoloration. That's really important that we don't use well, I can say it here, we don't call it mold, simply because it takes somebody from the EPA to determine that. If you have the licensing for it, fantastic. But if it's, when a resident calls in, you wouldn't document that it's mold, you would document on the work order that it's discoloration. Again, that's a lot of liability there, so you want to be careful with that. Inspecting for bed bugs or other infestations and schedule pest control accordingly. And again, vacant apartments, rekey that unit immediately. That should be one of the first things that you do once you receive the keys from the former resident. Here is an inspection form. This one I do need my glasses for. But you can see that this is upon initial entry, what we're looking for. It goes everywhere from the mechanics to the kitchen. We even talk about the GFI switches here, all the way down to the baseboards, everything. This is very comprehensive. The next page goes into the bathrooms, and then in general, we're looking at light bulbs, ceiling fans, all of these things that we are making sure that we're taking a good look at. And then all the different finishes as well. So again, if somebody would like a copy of this, I'll be happy to provide that. All right, let's briefly talk about capital improvements because it is a big part of the when we're doing the inspections. This time of year, a lot of us are doing budgets this time of year. So we're looking at what we're going to be doing next year for our capital improvements. Remember that in order for it to be a true capital improvement, this is a big ticket item that meets the legal definition of capital expense. In other words, it must improve the life of the building, and it also is a permanent fixture, not a removable item. So if you wanted to get new pool furniture, that might be a big ticket item, but that's not a capital expense. It doesn't meet the IRS definition of a capital expense. So some of the things that would be roofing, a roof replacement, asphalt, significant pool repair, exterior paint, HVAC replacement, flooring, and appliances. These are things that do meet the definition of capital improvement. Oh, and boiler systems too. So again, if you, this is, and I learned that many years ago, I had a property with huge eucalyptus trees and they needed to be trimmed annually. And by the way, if you have trees on your property that need to be trimmed, do it now before the Santa Anas come in. I mean, you all know this. You've lived in California. You know that the Santa Anas are about to get erupt again for us. So you want to make sure that you're getting your trees trimmed before that, so that they don't have those branches hitting your roof and taking off your roof tiles. But I did work at a property where we had significant eucalyptus trees that were majestic and messy and beautiful and terrible all at the same time. But we had to trim them. That was very costly, but that's not considered a capital expense. I sure tried, and my CFO wouldn't let me, but I sure tried to get that to be a capital, but it's not considered capital. All right, so we're gonna put the bow on this by talking about REAC inspections because I know that's everybody's favorite, absolutely favorite thing to do is to have a REAC inspection. So prior to the inspection date, the property must conduct a 100% inspection of the property. You can't, you cannot go into a REAC without having already inspected everything. This includes the 5 inspectable areas per REAC. That would be the site includes all building exteriors, the building systems, that's your boiler rooms, your mechanicals, the common areas, as well as the interior of the apartments. And from experience, I can tell you they will look in your storage rooms, your equipment rooms, your maintenance shops, your electrical rooms, your boiler rooms. They will absolutely be looking at that. So you need to be prepared. Here's where I'll put on my glasses again for this one. This is the top 25 deficiencies that we see. So again, I'm happy to share a copy of this presentation so that you can see this. But you can see that where the ranking, look how many doors, look at the deficiencies on doors. Who knew? Who knew that doors were that big of an item for REAC, right? I saw when I did the research on this and I saw this, I was like, okay. But you can see all the different things. Number 2 are different kitchen items. Windows are number 3. Doors again, and unit doors, inoperable, not lockable windows. Building exterior. This is a really handy chart for you to reference to. This is what they're looking at. This is where they see the most deficiencies. All right, you can find more information here. I know it's a weird website, but you can just go into Chat GPT these days and you can also find this information very easily. All right, phew, it's a lot of information. Property inspections continue to be the #1 strategy in reducing risk and maintaining the value of the asset. And regular inspections will keep the property in good condition. And property inspections keep you visible to your residents, which is another bonus. They see you out there so that they know that you actually are paying attention. And it gives you an opportunity to see them while you're out there as well. So it's a twofold, you're taking care of the physical asset as well as showing that you are engaged in your job, in your community, and that you are present, if you will. All right, so that's me. I think I saw some things in the chat. Let me see if, Christy, is there anything in there that I need, are there questions?
I actually think we're okay. Everyone would love a copy of your presentation and
Yay.
all of that. So I will be sending that out to everybody with a follow-up email. And if you have any other questions, of course, that's Angel's information. Yeah, I will send it to you as well, and you can always email us at any time. But outside of that, any other questions before we call this?
Oh,
Great.
good. I'm looking at the chat now. Oh, good. I'm glad you
Everyone
like it.
will,
Yeah, we'll
yeah,
definitely
we're
send
so
this.
thank you guys. Yes, this is awesome. Yes, you will all get the follow-up email with all of this, and I will be recording this and putting this on our YouTube channel, so you will get the link to that as well once we get it up.
Perfect. Oh, this is great. Okay, well, definitely. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
I love working with SCAMP, so thank you for inviting me, and hopefully I'll see you again for those of you in the audience, I'll see you on November 3rd.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you at the next one.
Thanks. Happy weekend. Bye.